Kids can survive incredible trauma, but when they crump quick.
Crump?
All the vitals go south all at once.
So we're looking at a homicide?
Is getting shot what killed him? Yeah.
Jolene said that she fired in self-defense.
I can't speak to that. But there was no filing or stippling on his body. He wasn't that close to her.
Is it possible the stippling disappeared during surgery?
It can't. Stippling burns into skin.
What about on the clothing?
You mean after EMS, the evidence mangling service, cut his clothes off through the bullet hole? I will hunt them down and kill them.
Melinda.
Sorry.
Jolene said that he was a foot away.
Well, she's either lying or confused.
Find out which one it is.
Finn, before you go to Chez Jolene, you might want to use our men's room.
Come again?
My ex's nephew worked there. When the kitchen toilet broke, she wouldn't let the help use the customer restroom. They had to use a diner across the street.
Thanks.
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hello and welcome to Munch My Benson. My name is Adam. I am coming from a very cool and comfortable New York City. I am joined on the line by Josh. How's it going up there in Minnesota, Josh?
It's also cool and comfortable.
Nice.
Just saw friend of the pod, Sean McGrath, and creator of episode.lol flat.
SVU, if you're listening again, if you are planning an Army Hammer episode, let us know. Sean would be a great stand-in for our favorite.
Or an analog. Not a stand-in. Yeah,
well,
we don't want him to just get stand-in work. The stand-in is very specifically something else in the film industry.
Sure.
He doesn't need to just like stand there and get lit.
Yeah. But he would be a great cannibal actor. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, for sure. And if you need a reel for an example, look no further than Deep Dark, which I believe is still available on Amazon Prime.
Or Twilight.
Yep.
Anyways, guys, so I've had some adventures over the last few days, but I haven't really been watching anything new. I've been watching Mayor of Easttown, which I think I mentioned last week, and it's great. It's building to a thrilling conclusion, it seems, and the accents are still ridiculous, but I haven't finished it, so I can't give my thoughts on the series as a whole. You've been watching anything, Josh?
We just finished season 2 of Ted Lasso.
Nice.
The season finale dropped 2 days ago as of taping.
Nice.
So, I think, season 2 mostly worked. So,
you know what? I'm going to reel that back because I did watch at least most of Children of the Corn last night before falling asleep. And holy hell, that movie, it kind of slaps, honestly, Josh. Those kids are violent. It's still like kind of toned down for Hollywood, but wow, the knives are out at the beginning of that film.
right on.
Yeah.
I just watched most of Remo Williams last night. So,
nice.
which I had not seen somehow, but would be a good idea for one of the other podcast ideas that we're kicking around.
Trying to think. I don't think I've seen Remo Williams either. So maybe I should see it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Excellent.
And, kind of crazy in that way that it seems like only 80s movies were.
Yeah. When there were a lot more drugs.
Yeah. When cocaine was
flowing through the whole production.
I don't want to say that there's not still a place for cocaine in Hollywood. In the, air quotes Hollywood, in the industry. But, like, it really had a home.
There is a kind of...
in the 70s and 80s.
There's a bedrock of professionalism that exists today that I think,
it's just exploitation, but...
Yeah, exactly. But there were...
Follow IA stories on Instagram, people.
But There was just this like level of madness that everybody kind of accepted back then. You know, that you would suspend disbelief when you walked into the movie theater, and I don't think people do that when they're watching films on their couch, on Netflix or whatever.
Right.
But I have been spending a lot of my free time reading about the history of the city that I live in, New York, and some of that actually comes up in this episode in a strange way, but in a way that I found interesting. Now, one particular little nugget that I learned that basically blew my head just completely off my shoulders was I learned the etymology of the word hooker, which I know what we have kind of talked about a lot because that comes up in Law & Order SVU.
Is it related to Red Hook?
It's not related to Red Hook at all. It is related to a different hook in New York called Corlear's Hook. So if you look at a map of Manhattan, you start down at the Battery, and if you go up the East River, which is, if you're looking at the map, up the right side, it kind of goes fairly to the east, and then it turns north. And that place where it turns north is called Corlear's Hook, and that's kind of the southeastern edge of the Lower East Side. Now, historically, the Lower East Side was a slum. It wasn't the worst slum in the city. We'll get there later. But it was definitely one of them. And it was known to be frequented by streetwalkers, both male and female. And so the term hooker comes from Corlear's Hook, where lots of them worked back in the olden days. When New York was
in the 19th century, presumably.
Yeah, in the 19th century, when New York was a lot more fucked up than it is now. But yeah, Red Hook, I don't mean to besmirch Red Hook, but it is a industrial part of Brooklyn that, back in those days, barely existed at all. It became more industrial in the early 20th century. Yeah. And is now where the Gowanus Canal, one of the most heavily polluted waterways on Earth, flows out into New York Bay.
The unfortunately pronounced Gowanus Canal, because it should be Gowanus.
Shouldn't it?
It's really a goddamn shame that it's not Gowanus.
Indeed, man, indeed. But yeah, so with that little fun fact out of the way, can we get to this episode? I guess actually we should talk about what we're drinking tonight. So,
sure.
What you got, Josh?
Well, I just came from a brewery.
Nice.
I was just at Insight Brewing, which is in northeast Minneapolis. Okay. I had some beers there, but now I'm home. I did not bring any Insight beers home with me, so I am now drinking a Founders All-Day IPA.
Hey!
Yeah, their session.
Great minds think alike, because, Josh, I'm also drinking a Founders All-Day IPA.
That's hilarious. I just picked up a 15-pack yesterday because I was stuck at Target and didn't want to cramp Jackie's style because I do not enjoy shopping.
Yeah. Few do. Well, yeah, I don't. But yeah.
But I especially don't enjoy shopping with other people when I'm not getting anything.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, bud.
Yeah, and so I tend to
let her do her thing and go to the other end of the
store. If I'm along, I tend to rush things along because I'm impatient and do not want to be there. And it's gotten worse during the pandemic. Yeah. So I just decided that I would just skip the store altogether. I went into the liquor section of Target, and the selection's somewhat limited, but I picked up a 15-pack of the All-Day IPA and a 12-pack of a variety pack of Surly, and a handle of Bully Rye.
Yeah. See, I was at CVS yesterday getting my flu shot. And I wanted to get some cash back before I left, and
I don't know if it's the same in New York, but in California, CVS liquor prices were fantastic.
Oh no, it's dog shit here. It's awful.
Oh no, CVS in California was some of the best. Of the best prices you would get.
I was floored at how expensive this 15-pack was, and it was merely my pride that prevented me from just giving it back, and the fact that I wanted to have a caution. It was $30 for a 15-pack.
What in the fuck?
$29.99.
Holy shit. You don't want to know what I got this for.
I don't. Well,
I got this and the 12-pack for less than that.
Jesus fucking Christ. Normally I spend $21 on a 15-pack of this stuff, which is not great, but still it's 15 beers, so it's not the end of the world. But
Yeah.
I got rolled. Sometimes you get rolled here, but I did get the flu shot for free, so I guess I don't know, coming out even somehow.
Yeah, but it'll be you'll get screwed there too, and it'll be, instead of pig flu or whatever the fuck flu they're shooting you up with, it'll be barn swallow flu.
Yeah, it's going to be barn swallow flu, man. I felt like ass today. So, and I know for a fact, because I talked to my kid's pediatrician.
Did you feel like gow anus?
Yeah, I did feel like gow anus today.
Okay.
And I was speaking to my kid's pediatrician, and she was telling me that there was no flu season last year. And so the way they come up with what the next flu season's going to be is based on the previous year's, the next flu shot's going to be is based on the previous year's flu strains. There was essentially no flu last year because no
one went outside.
Nobody went outside.
And everyone was wearing masks.
Yeah. And somehow since then, we've all kind of just, I don't know, as a country given up and just decided, okay, it's all right if, another 600,000 people die. We're going to go back
turnabout's
to normal.
fair play, and can I give up on this country?
Yeah, well, yeah. No shit. As a segue, I feel like the unit almost gives up on this country by the end of this episode.
Yeah, on the courthouse steps, I feel like there's a lot of just resignation.
Now, before I start this recap, when I went to watch this, I started watching the wrong episode because on Hulu, the episode right before this is a two-parter. And if you go to watch season 15, episode 3 on Hulu,
I did warn them last week also, but
you will start
because I'm aware of this.
You will start watching a batshit insane episode that is really fun. I know because I watched it, but it is not this one. Which is
who's in the next one?
It starts. It's a Cassidy's focused episode, and it starts.
Okay.
Just with one of the most bonkers things I've ever seen on SVU. And so I think I want to...
Which, as we should have established at this point, if we're saying that, it's bonkers.
It seemed like it should have been from like an 80s movie, like a John Carpenter 80s movie or something.
Right on.
I don't want to give too much away, but it starts with...
No, don't. We'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, we will. But highly recommend. So that one's a lot of fun. American Tragedy is the episode we are watching.
Yeah, so just let it roll. After this, just keep watching the next episode.
Yeah, so we're watching American Tragedy, which is officially season 15, episode 3. But again, on Hulu is season 15, episode 2. A serial rapist is attacking older white women on the Upper West Side. 2 of the victims described their attacks to detectives Rollins and Benson. Their assailant was a young black man wearing a hoodie who grabbed them as they were entering their homes, held a gun to their backs, and told them, "I know you want it," before throwing them to the floor and raping them in their doorways. While the detectives want to solve this thing ASAP, Sergeant Munch wants to keep the unit's overtime budget manageable, so he tells them to get some rest and they'll get to work in the morning. As Benson is walking away from the precinct, she's approached by a schlubby bald catcaller. Benson, of course, is fresh off the hell of her William Lewis torture trauma and isn't going to suffer this kind of fool lightly. Before she knows what she's doing, she breaks his nose with a punch and lays his ass out flat on the trash and rat-strewn corner of Mulberry and Moscow before walking off into the night past a halfway decent and extremely cheap dumpling house. The next day, Benson shares her feelings about destroying the hair-challenged loser with her shrink, Dr. Lindstrom. She's still reeling from her awful experience, but the doctor thinks she's doing okay, just as long as she limits the objects of her violent outbursts to pathetic bald men. At the precinct house, Rollins, Finn, Amaro, and Munch are working the case. A composite sketch of the attacker looks like it was drawn by a toddler, and the fact that he'd used a condom means they don't have any DNA samples to work either. Benson shows up after her appointment just in time to discover that another older woman on the west side had been attacked last night. Unis are instructed to start violating the rights of each and every young black man they find in the neighborhood, and we witness a tableau of perfectly innocent men being criminalized by the police for the crime of being black in public. Next, we see a bemused and incredibly famous woman in a sequin dress strolling home after a night of galas or fancy dinners or something. She becomes aware of a shape moving behind her. A young black man in a hoodie who's listening to music on his headphones. She turns to him and says, "What do you want?" He says nothing, probably because of the music, and keeps walking. Around the corner, Rollins is admiring the blunt rolling skills of a bestopped and befrisked gentleman when a shot rings out through the night. When SVU arrives, the young man is laying prone on the street but still alive, while the woman, Jolene Castile, a celebrity chef, claims that she had acted in self-defense because he was about to rape her. The man is actually a 16-year-old boy named Makad Carter. He wasn't armed, and his parents arrived at the hospital completely mystified as to why anyone would consider him a threat, much less a rapist. Jolene tells Nick and Liv that he reminded her of the poster and that he didn't respond when she asked him why he was following her. She says she shot before he had the chance to assault her. McConn's parents explained to Finn and Rollins that their son played basketball near the victims' houses most nights, but that he was a good kid and an honor student, and that they believe Jolene shot him in cold blood. The victim's IDs aren't the strongest, and he wasn't armed, but he had plenty of opportunity. Still, Barbara wants more evidence before he's willing to take this case to trial. He speaks to Jolene and her attorney, who claims that she shot because she feared for her life and would do it again even though she's sorry for McCod's parents. Back at the hospital, Reverend Curtis Scott is sitting with the Carters and vouches for the boy's good nature to Finn and Rollins when a surgeon arrives and breaks the terrible news that McCod is dead. As we watch the Carters' world collapse, Rollins receives a call that the real rapist, Willie Smith, has been caught in the act. Willie is a remorseless monster who deserves the sharp knee to the nuts he receives from Benson. But this isn't going to be an easy case, considering 2 of the 3 previous victims had ID'd McCod, and Willie left no DNA at the scenes. Willie was living in a shelter working as a cooking oil recycler, so they start working the previous rapes looking for grease residue, and they start looking into McCod's shooting to see whether or not it was justifiable. Upon seeing Willie, the victims all immediately recognize his disgusting hands and hoodie. Warner's autopsy reveals that McCod couldn't have been as close to Jolene as she claimed. Warner also gives the inside scoop about Jolene being as racist as a Georgia golf game and recommends that Finn use the morgue's men's room, given the lack of comfort he will find at Chez Jolene. Liv and Finn speak to Jolene at the restaurant, and while she sticks to her story, she nearly jumps out of her skin when Finn touches her, then claimed that McCod told her, "You know you want it," a detail she'd neglected to mention the several other times she'd talked to the unit. So just to be clear, this lady is super, super racist. The next morning, crowds of Black Lives Matter protesters surround the courthouse, and Barbara is beginning to feel like the social fabric of the city depends on how this case turns out. So they arrest Jolene. As she's being processed, she turns the racism dial all the way up. But things are not looking up for us viewers as the action turns to the courthouse. Of course, Jolene's attorney makes the case that Jolene fit the profile of the victims, and if SVU and 2 previous Vics ID'd McCod, how could Jolene have known that he was innocent on a dark street at night? Amaro digs up some radically racist dirt from Jolene's past in the form of lawsuits brought by black former employees of hers. Judge Ong rules that these depositions aren't admissible, but that if Jolene broaches the subject of her workplace racism, Barbara can follow that thread. Barbara goes hard after Jolene's past unpleasantries and in the process thoroughly besmirches New Orleans lifestyle magazines. But now the whole proceeding has devolved into a he said, she said affair where the jury can only hear what she said because he is dead. While they are waiting for the jury to return a verdict, Benson runs into Jolene in the restroom where Jolene says she was sorry McCod was dead, but that Benson must know how vulnerable a woman alone in the night can feel. While we know that Benson had just recently been very much alone and vulnerable at the hands of a monster, she said that McCod was just a boy and hardly a threat at all. The jury returns a not guilty plea, the Carters are devastated, the unit is bummed, and we are left with a "that's just the way it is, some things will never change, Dick Wolf." And I apologize for this is to Adam recaps in a row with musical dick wolves, but
I use them too. It's fine.
the way they left this one, I really couldn't go any other way. I mean,
Yeah.
Finn basically says it.
And I mean, now
Right
you get
there.
to use Bruce Hornsby, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I can drop that in. I mean, it's not necessarily indicative of the man's entire oeuvre, but it is a classic.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah.
I have that record.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So, guest stars?
We got a couple pretty big guest stars in this one, Josh.
So, first off, we've already talked about Leslie Odom Jr., who's playing the Reverend. So if you want to listen to us talk about him, we did that when we were covering October Surprise, which we covered back in Munch My Benson episode 38. That is the weirdest wonk boner I've ever heard of. He's also not doing a bunch here, so I'm not going to talk about him. There are a couple others that we've talked about, but I'm going to go into it a little bit when we get to them.
Okay.
Okay, so first one I think we need to cover, Cybill Shepherd.
Yeah, Cybill Shepherd.
Yeah, so she is playing Jolene Castile. She was a teen model out of Memphis who broke out in her first film role as Jacy in Peter Bogdanovich's The Last Picture Show, for which she was nominated for a Golden Globe. In the 1970s, she bounced back and forth between hits and massive flops, starring in two Bogdanovich bombs, Daisy Miller and At Long Last Love, being sandwiched between The Heartbreak Kid and Taxi Driver, both of which are phenomenal.
Yes.
She also went from dating a completely drugged out Elvis Presley to Peter Bogdanovich, who I believe left his wife for Cybill Shepherd.
Jesus Christ. Both of them were at least twice her age.
Yeah, Bogdan. I have a hard time reconciling Bogdanovich with his, I guess, type that strikes me as creepy, and it's probably the kerchief that he wears around his neck does not help things. But yeah. I mean, I feel like he's kind of a creep.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know the man, but still,
I mean, Cybill Shepherd.
she was stunning.
Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just drop dead
I'm
gorgeous.
not blaming him, but like he goes from her to Dorothy Stratton to Dorothy Stratton's sister.
But she was
And-
okay. She was 20. She was 26 in Taxi Driver. Okay, that's not.
Yeah, but Last Picture Show's 5 years before that. And
Yeah.
I think they got together about 2 years after Last Picture Show came out. Anyway, regardless, we can move on past this. In the late 70s, while studying with Stella Adler and unhappy with the state of her career, she turned to Orson Welles for advice. Orson Welles, of course, was great friends with Peter Bogdanovich. Welles told her to get up on stage and do the work, but away from the bright lights and harsh critics of New York or L.A. So she went back to Memphis for a bit to get stage work in. In 1982, she returned to the business, first doing a theater tour and then landing in primetime soap The Yellow Rose, starring opposite Sam Elliott. Despite its critical acclaim, that was canceled after one season. Shortly thereafter, she landed in the phenomenon that was Moonlighting.
Yeah.
She played the lead role of Maddie Hayes opposite Bruce Willis, who was playing David Addison. Willis broke the fuck out in this role.
Sure did.
They both were nominated for Emmys, but only Willis won. Moonlighting put Willis on the map and sparked Shepherd's return, with its first 3 seasons being a huge hit before their stardom essentially tore the show apart, with Willis splitting time in season 4 shooting Die Hard, and Shepherd shooting all of her scenes early in the season to work around her having twins. So it didn't really work because they weren't in the show together, and the show absolutely worked because of their chemistry.
Yeah.
It limped along for another season after that, but without Glenn Gordon Caron, who created the show, and left midway through season 4 after a huge disagreement with Cybill Shepherd. So after Moonlighting died, she went on to be in the films Chances Are, Texasville, Alice, and Once Upon a Crime, before landing in her own CBS sitcom, Cybill, which was created by Chuck Lorre and ran from 1994 to 1999. It garnered her 3 Emmy nominations, though she did not win. Since then, she's sort of settled into like doing recurring guest spots and, like minor feature roles, but she had recurring guest spots on The L Word, Psych, 8 Simple Rules, Eastwick, and The Client List. She's also been an activist for a long time, championing abortion rights, gay rights, and she was honored in 2009 by the Human Rights Campaign with one of 2 National Ally for Equity awards. She was also at the opening of the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis because she'd lent it financial support.
Nice.
Yeah. She apparently also now is like a big Christian, like as of 2014. So I don't know what that does with her abortion rights. One would assume she probably didn't change that much, but who knows? Anyway.
Yeah, interesting.
Next up, I've got Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah.
He's playing defense attorney Ben Cohen. He was born in San Francisco and went to the University of San Francisco and then got his master's at Wayne State University. He moved to Milwaukee to do repertory theater before getting to Broadway in a production of Sly Fox in 1976. He worked a ton as he established himself, appearing in main roles on The Ropers, Max Headroom, and Mr. Sunshine, and in the films Mr. Mom, Desert Hearts, the Charbonneau indie hit that we always talk about.
Yeah. We're a Charbonneau podcast.
Yeah,
here.
this is a Patricia Charbonneau podcast. Is also in City Slickers and Crossing the Bridge. In 1992, he landed the part of Hank Kingsley in The Larry Sanders Show, for which he was nominated for 4 Emmys. A few years after Larry Sanders Show had run its course, he found himself getting nominated, but losing more Emmys for Arrested Development.
Mm-hmm.
He finally won an Emmy after 7 nominations for Transparent, playing transgender character Maura Pfefferman. After 4 seasons on Transparent, he left the show in the midst of a shitstorm of controversy, with multiple former crew members and assistants accusing him of sexual misconduct.
Mm-hmm.
He maintained claims that he never meant to make anyone sexually uncomfortable, while saying he didn't remember any of the alleged incidents. He did cop to having an anger issue throughout his career in a piece on The Hollywood Reporter. This almost immediately blew up in his face like a week later after trying to claim that this was the possible explanation for some of the claims when, in a group interview with the New York Times with the Arrested Development cast, it came out that he'd exploded at the dearly departed national treasure Jessica Walter on set. He hasn't really worked since.
Not really, yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing that he was in that I saw that I liked, I guess there was the 2019 season of Arrested Development, but also The Death of Stalin. He was good in that.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
We've got Kevin Carroll, who is playing Corey Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is popping back up, and we saw him as the kidney-needing boy's father in Parts, which we covered back in Munch My Benson, episode 44, but they are turning a blind eye when Munch is going to steal that kidney and put it in Marley Matlin.
He plays the...
You can read put it in Marley Matlin in 2 ways there.
He plays a grieving father really well. He
yes,
really does.
yeah, he's done it twice now, and 2 different fathers. So obviously, this is a brain melter. But he's not going to prison at the end of this one.
Yeah.
Well, so far, he'll probably pop up as a grieving father again. Next up, we've got Sonia Sohn, who's playing Lisa Carter.
Another brain melter.
Yeah, she was Kima Greggs in The Wire. So, brain melter once again. Her parents met in South Korea while her father was serving in the Korean War. She graduated from high school in Newport News, Virginia. She was discovered as a slam poet by director Mark Levin. I can't believe I didn't know this already.
Really?
Who enlisted her and Saul Williams to write the screenplay for the hit indie feature Slam, which won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance in 1998.
No fucking way. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Slam. It was obviously the first thing I saw her, and I saw it like when it came out.
Yeah.
And somehow I had no idea that not only was she the star, the co-star in it, but she fucking co-wrote it.
Huh.
Anyway, then she also directed the HBO documentary Baltimore Rising about the 2015 Baltimore protest and community organizing that followed the BPD killing of Freddie Gray while he was in custody. Mm-hmm. She's appeared in the films Bringing Out the Dead, the Shaft remake, the one with Samuel L. Jackson starring as Shaft, not the second one with Samuel L. Jackson where it's his kid playing Shaft, whatever. She's in Perfume, Step Up 2, The Streets, and High Flying Bird. She was also main cast in the show Body of Proof and had recurring roles in Cold Case, Brothers and Sisters, Burn Notice, The Originals, Shut Eye, The Chai, and Star Trek Discovery. Next up, Bill Irwin, playing Dr. Peter Lindstrom.
It's a lot of people with long lists of credits in this one.
Yeah, this one, like, this is like 4 people who, like, I kind of have to go into.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At length.
Absolutely.
So he was born in Santa Monica. He went to Oberlin College and then went to Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown College in 1974.
Wow.
In 1975, he helped found the Pickle Family Circus in San Francisco, which is credited with helping kickstart the American Circus revival. He left Pickle Family Circus in 1979 to focus on stage work, but much of that stage work was silent clowning. He was awarded the NEA Choreographers Fellowship in 1981 and again in 1983. In 1984, he was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship and was the first performance artist to be awarded a 5-year MacArthur Fellowship. In 1988, he wrote, directed, choreographed, and starred in Largely New York on Broadway, which garnered him 4 Tony nominations and a Drama Desk Award for Unique Theatrical Experience. He was nominated for another 4 Drama Desk Awards for acting, and won a Tony in 2005 for playing George in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. On TV, he was Marilyn's mime paramour in 2 wonderful episodes of Northern Exposure.
Thank you for bringing those up.
I mean, that's what I know him first from.
He was in the Don't Worry, Be Happy video, Josh.
I know, but I didn't have MTV then. So, like, I know he was in it, and I have that note here, but, the thing that I know him from is those 2 Northern Exposures where he is miming a courtship with Marilyn, who is, like, kind of the least receptive person to anything in the show. And it's just fucking fantastic. Anyway, he was also Air Mime, Mr. Noodle, and Professor Television on Sesame Street, appearing 25 times from 1992 to 2009. He's also in a fuckload of Elmo videos as those characters. So, his IMDb page has a weird amount of Elmo in it.
He was in Igby Goes Down, which I think we've mentioned multiple times.
Yep, he was.
Yeah.
He had recurring parts on CSI, Lights Out, and Sleepy Hollow. He was main cast in Legion, South of Hell, and Monday Mornings. In films, in addition to being in Igby Goes Down, he was in Popeye, 8 Men Out, My Blue Heaven, Hot Shots, A Midsummer Night's Dream, the live-action Grinch movie, Rachel Getting Married, and Interstellar, where he voiced Tars.
Interesting.
Yeah. I still have fucking 3 more.
Yeah.
We've got Cindy Katz, who's playing Chloe, the victim who didn't want Amaro to think she was racist.
Okay, yeah.
This is her 4th of 4 SVUs, including Turmoil, where she played Shane's mother, which we covered back in Munch My Benson 43.
Nice.
Another second unit photo shoot gone wild. She's also in 2 Criminal Intents and 2 episodes of the original series. She got her MFA from Yale School of Drama. She was the second build in the Mark Harmon mid-90s PI star vehicle, Charlie Grace.
Hell yeah.
She had recurring parts on Hack, Shades of Blue, Nothing Sacred, and Friends. She had bit parts in Heat, The Age of Innocence, Limitless, and Frances Ha. And she's done guest spots on tons of shows, including Frasier, Murder, She Wrote, Diagnosis Murder, DS9, Voyager, The Affair, and Silk Stockings.
Ooh.
Raw besties. Okay, so next up I've got Alice Barrett, who played Stella. Or, sorry, she's playing Aubrey Trisler here, but she played Stella in Melancholy Pursuit, which we covered back in Munch My Benson episode 40. So
like
everyone in the Munch My
these.
Benson episode 40s has come back here in this episode.
There's still another brain melter.
Yeah. This is maybe that episode we titled maybe they just assumed there was semen because Warren was there. Because Warner was there. This is her second of 3 SVUs. She was born and raised in New York, got a BA in theater from Hunter College. Per Wikipedia, she's probably best known for playing psychic PI Frankie Frame Winthrop on Another World, which she played for 7 years. I have no idea what's going on with Another World, but I'm interested in whatever that is. She had recurring parts in Billions, One Life to Live, and Heels this year. Next up, I've got Francis Jue. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. It's Jue. Yeah. Anyway, he's playing Judge Stephen Ong.
It's a weird career turn for him because
yes, this is his third Munch My Benson episode that he's been in, and his 4th episode of SVU in total. The first 3 times on SVU were as Dr. Fong.
Yep.
So he added an F lost an F and became a judge. We saw him in Haunted back in Munch My Benson episode 2. Hot Mike Sandoval comes in the back door.
Indeed.
And Rockabye, which we covered in Munch My Benson 49, A Hooker's Chips and Donuts. Obviously, he is not playing Dr. Fong here. He's playing Judge Stephen Ong, thus making this another brain melter. This is, what, 4 or 5? 5 people?
At least 5. At least 5.
Fucking nuts. So he was born in San Francisco, lives in New York now, does a ton of stage work, having won an Obie and been nominated for a Drama Desk Award. He was in Joyful Noise, the Dolly Parton Queen Latifah Church Choir joint, also featuring Munch alums Andy Carl and Jeremy Jordan.
Megan's enjoying that Dolly Parton podcast. I have not listened to it.
Oh,
yet.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
He was also in he's also going to be in Noah Baumbach's upcoming adaptation of Don DeLillo's White Noise.
Weird.
And he is the Chinese foreign minister in 22 episodes of Madam Secretary.
There are other actors that we could talk about.
But we've talked about actors for so long, and we're at minute 38. I had to cut it off.
Yeah, it's true.
Because we haven't even talked, and we don't need to talk about them too much, but we haven't talked about the 2 fucking headlines that this episode is ripped from. The first is obviously Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we need to go into this too much because this is impossible to not know about.
Exactly.
But just in case you don't know who Trayvon Martin was, on February 26, 2012, about a year and a half before this episode, Trayvon Martin was walking back from a 7-Eleven to his father's fiance's house in a gated community in Sanford, Florida, when George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch guy of highly questionable character, called in a suspicious person to the police. He was suspicious, of course, because he was black and wearing a hoodie. Minutes later, he shot and killed Trayvon Martin, who was, 15, I believe?
Yeah, I think so.
And he killed him, claiming that he had been attacked. Zimmerman was eventually charged, after a large outcry, was eventually charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter, but he was acquitted. So that sucks. Paula Deen.
Yeah. Also sucks.
It also sucks. This all happened right before this episode. This is the summer before they were writing these episodes.
Nice.
So in June of 2013, a few months before this episode, Paula Deen was sued for racial and sexual discrimination by Lisa Jackson. She'd had a history, Paula Deen, had a history of making derogatory comments about African Americans and had talked about throwing a, quote, true Southern plantation-style wedding for her brother, complete with all black servants, but that she had to nix that because of optics. The case was thrown out with prejudice by the judge, ironically. But in her deposition, Paula Deen admitted to dropping the N-bomb sometimes, but that it had probably been decades, unless maybe it had been quoting black people in stories. She lost a slew of deals, shows, and contracts, and then Jimmy Carter went out and publicly begged for her to be forgiven for being honest about her distant past and what Georgia had been like in the 60s. Of course, like 2 years later, pictures surfaced of Deen and her son from 2011, just 2 years before all this bullshit, where they were dressed up for Halloween as Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, with her son in brown face. So it sure sounds like that racism wasn't in the distant past.
I mean, of course, if you're going to get disqualified by going out in brownface, tell that to the nation of
Justin
Canada. Yeah.
Who seems to have an incident every, 3 years that was caught on...
There's like a dozen photos.
It's fucking insane. So nuts.
So yeah, Paula Deen.
Anyway.
She made fried chicken, and apparently it was popular.
Unhealthy food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
let's get to it, huh?
Yeah, let's get to it, man. So
I mean, the first line of the show is, so the man who attacked you is black, and it takes about 4 seconds of run of show to be able to safely say that this is going in a racial direction. We've got a black serial rapist. But even in later era SVU, there's no way this is staying straightforward. It's not just going to be we're going to catch this rapist kind of story. Obviously, that's not what's going to happen here.
Yeah, of course not. Because the catching the rapist part of it is such a small part of the story, right? They have to throw a big wrinkle, and they do.
Yeah.
Of course, they kind of like telegraph that with the way, though, particularly the third victim, I think, kind of talks about, about the blackness of her assailant, right? Like she kind of, and she brings it up a few times. She doesn't want to seem racist, but he was menacing, and et cetera, et cetera.
Obviously, I mean. To be fair, he was a rapist.
He was a rapist, and he brutalized her and left her.
Yeah, and a rapist with a gun would be menacing. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're telegraphing maybe where this is going to go before.
Sure.
Before we see Cybill Shepherd jauntily strolling down the block.
Rollins and Liv take sort of the statements from the women, from the victims in a montage.
Yeah,
then
this is very
they come out of this
fast cuts, jumping around. It's very stylized.
Yeah, we're just
filmmaking.
it's establishing that there's a fucking serial rapist, basically. Yeah. But then they come out of there, and Munch is like, we've already spent enough overtime on those missing girls, which is obviously like talking about whatever the fuck happened in the 2 episodes before this, the two-parter, which I think William Lewis is actually resolved at the end of the first one. And then there's a whole nother second episode that has to do with these girls that are being trafficked. So I think, or missing girls in that one. So I think there's something more going on with the first two. Because I think that most of the Lewis stuff, like the season 14 ends on a cliffhanger with her, being held captive by Lewis, and then I think that's resolved over the course of the first episode. But that somehow the first episode bleeds into the second one. Anyway, so there's something going on. Munch is worried about OT. Kragan's nowhere to be fucking seen in this episode.
Munch is the boss. It's
Munch is the boss, and I scanned the episodes around it to be like, wait, is Kragan here? Is Kragan there? And Kragan pops up again, so he's definitely like still in charge. So I don't know what. Maybe he's suspended or something, and it just doesn't say.
I don't know. Anyways, yeah. Munch made the wrong call here because the rapist struck
I don't
that
know
night.
that he did, though, because the only thing that was going to happen was that Rollins wanted the sketch artist to come in, and the sketch artist, holy shit.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
You're allowed, Liv.
Please don't say that. This sketch is useless.
That's what I said.
You never know. Give it a shot. Alert the media, the neighborhood. Maybe we'll catch a break.
Like that sketch looked like
maybe Munch knew how bad the sketch artist was.
Like an 8-year-old was trying to do a sketch of somebody. It was terrible,
brutal, totally brutal.
But yeah, Munch tells them to get some sleep when Rollins proposes that they get a sketch artist.
But we know
neither Rollins nor Benson seem pleased at the suggestion. But again, nothing changes here. They're not going to be able to.
If they were out violating people's rights that night, maybe they would have stopped the thing, Josh.
So frustrating. Okay, so Liv then really reacts to a guy hitting on her in the classic New York construction worker kind of way.
I mean, so for one thing, this guy is not. He is doing a classic New York construction worker thing, but he's all alone in the middle of the night.
All alone on a stoop in a draw. I don't know. He's he should have. Well, I'm not going to advocate for police assaulting people, but
She
this
did
guy
not
fucking
know that
sucks.
she was a cop. She didn't have to identify
Clearly,
herself.
because she fucking dropped him like
She-
a sack of shit.
So the bald guy, this is where I want to digress for a moment, right? Because, okay, so Liv destroys this guy, and it's
Lights him up immediately. Just fucking clocks him in the nose.
I think it's-
drops him.
considerably more cathartic the way she destroys this guy than the way she drops the
knees the
actual
rapist.
rapist,
Yeah.
because you go like, he's already in cuffs.
Yeah, she needs that guy in the nuts and whatever.
But she destroys this fucking bald
Yeah,
piece of shit.
she lights this fucker up.
Who looks like, this guy is the stereotypical construction worker from, like a 90s film, right? Like, I don't know that construction workers actually dress or look like this guy. And they're certainly not necessarily hanging out on that stoop in the middle of the night.
This is the construction worker straight from Central Casting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we can see in the background enough information that I know exactly where that is. And I have a lot to talk about with that, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I do, but that is at the corner of Mulberry.
It's cool. We're only at minute 48, and we're in the first the first 5 minutes of the episode now.
Not even. We have not gotten to the credits yet.
Luckily, my notes are going to get a lot more sparse.
Same. So that is at the corner of Mulberry and Moscow. Now that is right now. It is kind of in the it's in the southern part of Chinatown. But that neighborhood didn't always used to be Chinatown, because that used to be near the very center of the most dangerous slum in not just America, but probably the entire world. It was called 5 Points. It was the neighborhood from Gangs of New York, if you remember it. And it was so bad that, in fact, they built the whole civic center of New York, where the big New York Supreme Courthouse is that we see in almost every episode. They built that over the remains of half of 5 Points to bury it into the dustbin of history. But so she's walking past, it's called the Wawing Song Funeral Home. And in the background, you can see the, it's called the, what is it called? It is called, Chatham Towers. Now, Chatham Towers is like a weird Soviet-style...
Some weird, sad brutalist building.
Yeah, it's like a Soviet-style, like, apartment block. But it is actually built on top of what was the most notorious building in New York's storied history of crime. It was called Coulthard's Brewery, also known as the Old Brewery. Now, this place dates back to 1792... And I will read a real short excerpt describing it, because it's such a wild place. And I've been diving into this shit, so I had to talk about it. Because it's like, I've been thinking about this block, because the actual 5 Points refers to an intersection that no longer exists.
Sure.
Because the city hated it so much that they destroyed the whole intersection. And so now only...
And then they made it a grid.
There's only two... No, there's no grid down there. It's still a kind of weird warren, but... Most of 5 Points became the Civic Center, and another part became a park called Columbus Park. But where the 5 Points refers to an intersection that had three streets.
Columbus Park is named after Home Alone director Chris Columbus.
That's correct, not after notorious...
genocidal maniac Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, really. So we're recording this actually the weekend of quote-unquote Columbus Day. And
tomorrow.
Guys, there are other Italians to celebrate that weren't world historical pieces of shit. Like, Christopher Columbus didn't just start kind of a genocidal wave coming across America. He was himself a genocidal fucking maniac, and many of the horrible things that happened as a result of European colonialism were direct results from things that guy started way back in the day. I digress. So
fuck that mook.
Yeah. So that building is built right over this nightmarish tavern called the Old Brewery. Now, in a book called As You Pass By, a history of the volunteer firefighting units that predated the FDNY, Kenneth Dunshee described it as, quote, "The Old Brewery was a 5-story building, old and dilapidated. Along one wall, an alley led to a single room in which more than 75 men and women of assorted nationalities and races lived together. This was the den of thieves. The name was appropriate. Along the other wall ran another filthy lane called Murderer's Alley, worse than the first. Upstairs, there were about 75 other chambers housing more than 1,000 people. This section was a warren with underground passages and murderous cul-de-sacs into which the police dared venture only in large numbers. For the old brewery, for a period of more than 15 years, averaged a murder a night. So I did a quick little tally of murders in New York City. So from 2016 to 2020, that's a 15-year period, New York averaged just over a murder per night. And so one fucking building in the early 1800s averaged more murders than the entire city of New York, with nearly 10 million people in it now, does.
Fantastic.
Yeah, anyways, that's Dickens went there too and talked about it. Dickens had to go with a police escort because I guess he was too fucking famous when he was visiting New York. But
read my cereals.
Yeah,
he says to everyone as he walks by.
Piece of shit, you fucking poverty porn enthusiast. Yeah. So okay, we can back to the show.
Show me your street urchins.
Also, there's some really great photos of the old Five Points district by Jacob Riis, who, if you've been to New York, there's a lot of things called Jacob Riis this, Jacob Riis that. He was a photographer and journalist who chronicled the poverty in the Lower East Side and the 5
Isn't
Points.
that fuckhead in the British House, Jacob Moggeries or something like that?
Oh yeah, you're talking about but spelled different because that guy's got it Rees. The Jacob Riis from New York was a Danish guy, Riis.
I-E. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but
that's better.
Yeah, he was like a reformer, because there was like a whole like reform movement. In fact, Jacob Riis is kind of one of the most influential people into the kind of like mid-century housing project. I guess they call it like towers and lawns. To kind of like we'll lift these people out of poverty by putting them in a giant tower block surrounded by a lawn that they're not allowed to go on. And separated from the rest of the city.
Make sure that shit's fenced off.
Anyways,
so back to the episode.
I will continue to keep going if you want me to, but
I feel like we gotta trim
I'm kidding,
some shit.
Josh. I'm kidding.
Okay, all right. So Liv then immediately goes to see her therapist, who she's seeing now because of the post-traumatic stress from the William Lewis situation.
Yeah.
So she, tells Doc Lindstrom, "I'm a New York City cop. I can't go around beating people up." Sadly, it seems like some of them didn't get that memo. Then he tells her that she has the tools and tells other victims what she needs to hear herself right now. So,
yeah.
Then Liv waltzes in and says, "I'm sorry I'm late." And Munch is like, "You're allowed." And then Liv randomly is just like, "Please don't say that."
I get that.
Like,
she doesn't want to be treated like a victim by, her colleagues.
yeah, but it's just, why is she so on edge with Munch specifically here?
Yeah, well, because
this is like 2 scenes in of her dealing with Munch. In both scenes, she's being oddly contentious with him.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I don't think she respects him that much. I think that's a problem.
I mean,
Not
she
as her
does
boss.
know how rank works, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And every time Kragen ever got removed from the unit, it's always because of something that either she or Elliot did.
Of course.
Sorry.
Of course.
I mean, whenever Munch is in charge, it's because you fucked up. How bad do you feel for Amaro, who's having to pass that awful sketch around on the street?
I know. But
he's got like printouts of this fucking terrible sketch. I mean, it looks like...
it looks kind of like the
it looks
the
like
Unabomber.
A serial killer drew it.
It looks like the Unabomber, but just they like filled in the face of the Unabomber covered by the mask, just with charcoal, right? And they just like
it's utter insanity. They blackfaced the Unabomber.
Fantastic.
I feel like that's a early contender for the name of this episode. Okay, stop and frisk.
Yeah, well,
they are stopping.
They say that let's 250 or whatever they call it. But that is the New York Police Department code for stop, question, and frisk, which is the very controversial policy of stop and frisk, which, of course, as people might know if they've heard the news, overwhelmingly targeted young Black and Latino men in New York.
So overwhelmingly, it's like insulting.
It's insanely
like,
overwhelmingly, yeah.
And Bloomberg and Kelly, Ray Kelly, or it's Ray Kelly, right? Yeah. Bloomberg and Ray Kelly, who was the police commissioner then, and Bloomberg was the mayor.
Yeah.
They were basically using their crime stats in this like fucked up circular logic way that doesn't actually make sense, and you're just like keep feeding more bullshit into the equation to get your answers. But they were saying that because Black and Hispanic offenders were charged more, that they were committing crimes more, that they should actually be stopped more than they were, which is what is later talked about when they're asking Finn on the stand about all of Bloomberg's statements.
Yeah.
But it's completely insane. And here we're watching them stop like every fucking Black man in the city.
I kind of feel like SVU is doing some blue washing. I don't know if that's a neologism, but where they're using the stop and frisk for, in their mind, legitimate purposes.
Oh, no. I absolutely don't think that's what's
You
going
don't
on.
think that's what they're doing here?
No,
Okay.
no. I don't think that Light and Company are trying to paint this in any way that's sympathetic.
Okay.
I think it's meant to show that they're stopping every Black man in the city.
They are.
And that they are like straight up just victimizing people solely because they're Black. Like, there's a ton of overreach here because they meet the vaguest of descriptions of being youngish Black men. Like, because even when Liv is on the stand later, she sort of like regrets that they did this. I mean, she doesn't outright say that she regrets it, but like you can tell there are pangs of regret and like, because he was the description of a young Black man. Like, that is that really what you're asking? But that's what's happening with Stop and Frisk.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I think that, like, the creators, the writers, and this one's written by Warren Light and Julie Martin, right?
And so you think they're...
I think there's absolutely... I don't think there's any wiggle room at all about where they're coming down on this. I don't think they're justifying Stop and Frisk at all.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, I don't think this is... I think this is meant... Because, I mean, Liv is doing multiple things where she's overreaching in this episode.
Sure.
And I don't think we're meant to believe that this is good for her.
Now, I wish that those fucking cops had started chest compressions, though, when they arrived at the scene of Jolene's shooting, because maybe he would have survived if they had started administering first aid as soon as possible.
Possibly. I mean, the other issue is that I don't know if you're... I don't know how sound that is if you've been shot in the fucking chest, which he has been.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
You could be exacerbating things, so I'm not sure. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have, but I don't know what the.
You're right. Maybe, I don't know. At this point they are presumably getting some kind of first aid training, I think.
No,
this is 2015. Yeah, they're not.
Yep.
One of my favorite...
No first aid training.
One of my favorite ironies is that
still shocking.
NYPD's cars now say their motto is community, protect, respect. I don't know, some bullshit like that. But it's CPR, and it's like they didn't learn CPR until like 2017.
Maybe later.
It's fucking bullshit.
It's still, I like when we found that out.
Shocking. I'm just my jaw dropped.
Flabbergasted. I still can't fucking fathom how that's possible. Anyway, speaking of Black guys being victimized, Cybill sure seems like she shot an innocent Black kid here. And then she, jumps to, he tried to rape me, and it is the least sensible explanation for what actually could have happened.
Given what we saw,
given what we saw.
Yeah, we just saw somebody walking behind her with headphones in, and she said something to him. He didn't respond, and
because he can't hear her, because he's got fucking earbuds in. She also, and I think this is by design, plays this a little more coldly than someone who really thought they were going to get raped.
Yeah, she wasn't.
There wasn't. I mean, we saw 3 truly traumatized victims, and then we saw her.
Exactly. Of course, they had been literally
Sure.
traumatized.
Yes, but I think if she truly thought that she was going to be raped, Like true, like unequivocally, no hesitation at all.
She wouldn't be lying about what he said to her. That's for damn sure.
Yep.
And
that lie, of course, only comes out because she has since seen the reports, and it is catering her story to match those to get her off, and maybe get her off.
So the Carters say he takes the M5 bus line usually, sometimes the subway, and the M5 is the bus line he would have taken from the boat basin, which is at 79th along the Hudson. Of course, all of these rapes were along Riverside Drive, we're told, and that's it goes up Riverside Drive. So they did their bus research.
This whole scene where they have to question his parents is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, definitely uncomfortable as Finn and Rollins try to like walk that fine line where they're trying to get information, but at the same time not trying to be like cold and sensitive assholes.
Yeah.
And then Kima is like, I want that murderous white she-devil locked up.
Yeah. Of course, one of the
He's
things
right.
they have to do in SVU, right, is make Makad like... He's kind of like the perfect victim, right, for this, right? He's an
Sure.
honor student, you know, and he was a really nice
Choir boy,
kid. Choir
literally.
boy, yeah. When, you know, often in reality, the media uses kind of minor indiscretions from people's past against them.
Which
to
they
kind
very
of-
specifically did with Trayvon Martin.
Exactly,
They used
exactly.
social media posts that was like, I mean, fuck, go through my social media posts.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to do that, people. But go through mine. I've said plenty of terrible things. When you used to have that like naughty or nice metric that would pour over your tweets, I was 99% naughty.
Ooh.
And one of the keywords that they kept using, that they kept referencing that I'd used was Blumpkin. So,
Our current Secretary of State. That's so nice of you for talking about him already.
yeah, Secretary Blumpkin.
So,
All right, Benson is really looking to believe Jolene's account here.
she believes victims.
When there's plenty of initial contradictory evidence that only mounts. Like her post-attack bias is definitely working against her here.
Yeah, I don't know what the time frame is supposed to be here, but I would imagine the department would recommend some kind of period of leave after that kind of experience, but I don't know.
But dude, I mean, Liv wouldn't listen.
Yeah, I also would have
She's just
thought
gonna
that
keep
they would have
working.
learned how to do fucking first aid before like 2018.
Yep, but they did not. So then Makad dies in the hospital, and immediately,
Pretty rough scene.
in only the way that it can happen in television, immediately the real rapist is caught in the act.
Oh, yeah. Rollins receives a phone call. You know what happens when the phone rings and Rollins is there?
Deus Ex Rollinson? So the real rapist, total piece of shit.
Such a piece of shit.
Oh, man.
I wish we had more
And-
time with him because he was a real piece of shit.
Yeah, real piece of shit. He really lands piece of shit in very few lines. Granted, the lines given him were odious, but then like he calls Liv a bitch, I think.
He does.
And
yeah.
she
He says
knees him
that
in
you
the junk.
wanted it too, and she needs him while he's handcuffed. So, yeah.
And then she's kind of peak Amaro or Stabler here. Like she is roughing up perps and potential perps in the case of that fucking guy on the street. Like it's her favorite pastime.
I feel like
She has really taken back the night.
who was it? Audra McDonald,
The therapist in
the
the
therapist
end of,
from the end of season one.
Season one.
She
Yep.
would recommend that Liv take a leave of absence for a little while.
Yeah. She's really spinning out here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that she shouldn't be necessarily. I just don't know that she should be working cases.
And certainly being kind of like the lead detective on a high profile case, as well as a very sensitive one.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that the rapist gives up the thing that links him to the other rapes, the oil. Like, proffers that right away. He really fucks himself. So, fuck this guy.
Well, they needed to get that exposition dump out of the way, like ASAP, because they needed to have...
because they have way too much other bullshit on.
Well, and they have Jeffrey Tambor, and they're like, we cast him as a lawyer, so we need to have a lot of fucking lawyering done.
Yep, got to be a lot of Tambor lawyer. They bring in the victims again. They ID the guy.
They feel bad about it.
Yeah, please don't think I'm racist. Well, too late. And Amaro definitely, you can tell
Amaro's just like staring at her. She's
like, are you serious? I can't tell if you're joking. Like, I think you're racist, right? Then EMS fucked shit up evidence-wise. She calls them the evidence mangling service, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, Warner has a really fun scene.
We could cut this whole Warner scene in because it's kind of priceless from front to back.
Yeah, kind of.
She talks about the stippling and then gives Finn the straight dope on Shea Jolene.
You might want to use the restroom.
Oh, Jesus Christ. She's fucking racist, man. And I'm not saying, like, I'm
here for the racism usually on SVU, but she says a lot of stuff. She says a lot of stuff.
She starts talking about how New York is full of what was it?
Riding the
Something
subway
Jews
is
and
like
liberals.
taking the jungle train through the Congo, and she's talking about field hands and other things.
Oh man.
Yowza.
Like when they go to her restaurant, was Richard Spencer eating there? Could you tell? I couldn't tell. You went to school with him.
I did.
So
I went to school with him for 1 year. He would have sat next to me in assembly, but I don't fucking remember.
Well, because he didn't have that, white supremacist haircut yet, probably.
No, yeah. I do definitely remember some of the people that were apparently friends with him. But yeah, yikes.
So, yeah, she's super racist. She recoils when Finn goes to recreate the crime and then starts spewing stuff about Jews and says that she'd be getting a medal for shooting a black kid were they in the South. Oh, man. There's so much problematic shit here. It is not comfortable.
Yeah, to quote Jolene, I wasn't comfortable with her patois. Which I was a little confused because, so she says I wasn't comfortable with his patois, but he didn't speak because he was listening to headphones and didn't hear her.
Yep.
Anyway.
Oh, no, I mean, she's completely fabricating everything at this point.
Yeah.
So I think for the most part she does the job well of pulling off odious Southern racist. Yeah. But it feels like she's sort of slipping in and out of her Southern accent here.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Her accent
and
is
the weird thing is she's actually from Memphis.
Yeah,
and from Memphis in the 60s, like, she would presumably have an accent, but, like, I don't know, maybe this is just how she talks, and every once in a while
she's definitely hamming up the Southern accent. I think that she probably...
But she's not doing it that much, though. It's not like we're watching Brenda Blethyn do whatever the fuck she was doing. Or worse,
because I think,
Marcia Gay Harden.
Yeah, sure, because I think that Cybill Shepherd actually, like, once had that accent, and she probably got it coached out of her when she was up and coming.
When she was studying with Stella Adler.
Yeah, exactly. So she learned how to not speak that way, but at the same time, it's like, it's a lot. When she's going to do one, she's going to have a lot better accent than fucking Brenda Blethyn will. But
that was bad.
But yeah, she did kind of fade in and out a little bit. I mean, I think, which is understandable.
There were times where I felt like, okay, she's just talking like normal Cybill Shepherd here.
Yeah.
So, all right, I don't know when we're jumping ahead to the trial because we should just move through this. We have another instance where Benson's on the stand and things kind of fall apart. I don't know that she really had a way around the defensive's line of questioning here.
Of course not. It wasn't her fault.
But she does again put the case in jeopardy while she's on the stand, which is kind of like the go-to, Benson's on the stand. It feels like it's always going to go wrong because of this.
Yeah, and I mean, not that Tambor would have accepted a plea, but Barba said, I think I should offer a plea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I forget who talks him out of it. Now, obviously before...
Well, I don't know, I don't know that they talk him out of it. I think...
Well, they kind of are talking to him about it. And they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't do it."
They're not pro taking. They're not pro plea offer.
Yeah. So right before the trial starts,
she also says she has black friends, which obviously she doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she has black friends, but she pays them and she makes them walk across the avenue to take a piss in the diner.
I don't think those are black friends.
But so before the trial starts, Barb is in his office. There's a protest going on outside.
Yeah.
Obviously, I look at the signs.
Clearly.
And so we had it was good sign work generally. So we had like Black Lives Matter signs. We had other ones that had like pictures of both McCall and Jolene. And they said, they said child over McCall and child killer over Jolene. There's one that said, I am McCall. Professional work. Totally believe those at this sort of thing. Then we get one that says...
Are you going to point out the one about her frying?
There was one that said, it had like weird verbiage.
Wasn't it fry Jolene fry?
It's something like make Jolene fry, something like that. There was another one that said stop children, which was a little weird. It had like handguns with the like kind of like cross out handguns, but it just
stop shooting children.
It said stop children in words, and then it had handguns.
But there's a handgun in there. It's probably stop shooting children.
But they could have just put shooting there, and it would have made more sense because it looks to me just like
they probably ran out of space.
It just looks to me like it just said stop children. And then the last one said guilty of WWB, which I'm assuming was walking while black, but I'm not 100% sure. But then he says, he's on the phone with apparently the district attorney. And he says, yes, sir, I do know what a long, hot summer is. Of course, the long, hot summers were in the late 1960s. In the summertime, there were large and often uncontrolled riots across many cities in the United States.
Specifically in 68.
Yeah, it was 68.
Or most specifically 68, but that was the year that it like hit its fever pitch.
Well, after the assassination of MLK, there was riots in dozens and dozens of cities, but like
Watts, Detroit, New York.
Yeah, the Watts riot was in 1965. That was kind of the first long hot summer, and then 1967 was Detroit and Newark. But then after 1968, they were all over the place. And this was like going on until the 70s. And so he says, yes, sir, I do know what a long, hot summer is. Of course, we just had a long, hot summer, not this past summer, but in 2020, because 2020 was very analogous to what was going on back then. And of course, it wasn't always that the black folk were rioting and causing lots of destruction, but that sometimes the other forces were at play. In 2020, of course, the police were causing a lot of the problems.
Yeah, the people who were supposed to serve and protect were often
doing the opposite of that. In Josh's town, they were driving around in unmarked vans, shooting at people without announcing their presence.
I mean, not that there's a to be fair here, but they were shooting non-lethal rounds.
Yeah, well.
To be fair.
Well, to be fair, the bottom inch of a beer bottle is 50% spit.
Still awful.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the trial. There is no fucking way that a high-profile lawyer would let Jolene take the stand in this trial.
Absolutely not.
Like, the reasonable doubt's been established. Things can only go wrong things can only go wrong for her from here.
And he already knows about these transcripts of these depositions that are fucking damning.
Yeah. So if she opens her mouth in the wrong fucking way, that her whole history of discrimination in sealed court documents is fucking up for discussion.
Yeah, which
in the trial,
of course, she like immediately opens her mouth and it comes out.
But only a little bit. Like, he really can't dive in that much.
Yeah.
He has to stick to what's publicly verifiable, like her statement in Le Bon Temps.
Yeah.
The New Orleans lifestyle mag that they created for the show.
Jesus Christ, that was like.
I mean, I can't believe that a publication would let that fly.
New Orleans,
a lifestyle mag. This isn't. It's not like it was some hard hitting, like, I don't know, some like Rolling Stone expose, or it's not that.
It's a lifestyle mag in New Orleans, which is easily the most liberal like city in the real old South. easily.
Uh-huh.
And despite
man.
certainly having racial problems,
Yep.
it is definitely not a place where I would expect to see something like that.
Just shocking. Anyway, so the defense's case basically comes down to if NYPD's policing methods are racist and Bloomberg is racist as well, then it's okay for his client to indiscriminately shoot young black men.
Uh-huh. Well,
that is the crux of their case.
I would like to say that I'm surprised about that, but
in the case of this episode, they're not wrong, apparently.
I mean, but to quote John Cougar Mellencamp, I mean, ain't that America, man? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't... listeners, just know that I didn't make John Cougar Mellencamp get dropped into this episode. Adam did, so blame him.
You know, kind of funny that we should mention this, but John Cougar Mellencamp is the cousin of one of my friends who lives in New Orleans. So
right on.
Shout out.
So Tambor plays to like the one white guy on the jury in the closing statement, and we are sure to be shown this. And you know that motherfucker is clearly, at least when in the first poll, because we know that in the first poll it was split. But you know he was a holdout.
Yeah.
And then convinced everybody else.
I mean, to be fair, the way these fucking castle laws are written,
yeah,
it's pretty easy to kill somebody if you're a white person and you're standing right next to your house. It's pretty easy to kill somebody in this country.
Yep. So Barba gives us an impassioned plea in his closing argument, but it seems obvious that he wasn't going to get the verdict that he wanted.
Did draw some tears in the courtroom, though.
Indeed. But she's found not guilty of manslaughter, which is a pretty low bar to clear.
Yeah,
so
I felt
got bubkas out of that.
I felt like the extras acting in the gallery was kind of weird, because
because it seemed like the extras in the back, like screen left corner, were cheering and should not have been the people who were cheering.
Exactly. Not that we're trying to say who should be
was that
cheering.
the last shot of the day? That was the martini shot for the day, and they're just like, oh, well, whatever. We called martini, so this is it. That's the shot we're getting. It seems crazy. Maybe they shot alternate. They could have shot an alternate verdict.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And just used the wrong footage.
It's possible. But it did
They
seem
had
like
to
they
shoot
were
it both
cheering,
ways.
and they didn't look
It
like
really seemed like
the
they were
people I
cheering,
would
and
think they'd
that
be cheering.
it was. Yeah, it seemed like there were black people cheering for the verdict, and that should not have happened.
Yeah, at least it didn't seem like a large number of black people in the courtroom would have been cheering this verdict.
No. All right, so I think we're ready to.
I think we are
right?
too. There's a little kind of like button thing at the end where they basically Finn says that's just the way it is, and that's where we leave the episode. So of course we rank these episodes every week. We rank them on a 10-point 4 criteria scale. We are trying to come up with a comprehensive list of all of the SVUs and where they rank in the canon. So the way we do that is we judge them on the overall quality of the episode, the guests therein, how problematic the episode was, and the depth and breadth of lives ruined. Now, I think this one kind of ticks boxes, even though I don't know that it's that great. I don't know how you feel about the overall quality of it, because I think I think that any time that we're hitting courtroom, with like 15 minutes
At
left,
least it's Barba courtroom.
it's Barba courtroom, but it's like
It's not like they stuck it like they did with Motherly Love, say.
yeah.
Where the courtroom is like, whoa, holy shit. We didn't get that, and it was kind of sort of your standard. If I were to give a random SVU fan, any of you listeners, if I were to give you a scenario which laid out what the case was up to this point, you could all pretty much write how the courtroom scenes were going to go.
Yeah.
Unless there was a crazy left turn like in Motherly Love.
Exactly. And there's no left turn here. And so we're just kind of like playing out the two arguments that we already understand the arguments if we've been watching the episode so far. Or if we've been fucking alive in this country,
Sure.
at least that summer, that was definitely in the air and certainly is now. And so I think that's kind of a mark against it. It starts well. I think it starts, and it's fun, and the Liv kind of trauma stuff. It works. It could.
Yeah, it's at least like an interesting thing to have to wallow in.
What I was thinking is it could have been worse. I kind of expected it to be worse when I was coming into this, because I knew that
you knew we were going to still be
preceding
dealing with very fresh wounds from that, but
I don't know that it's that great. It's not fun, really.
No,
it does have big stars in it, but that's a different category. And I had the feeling that these two big events that the writers kind of linked in their minds happened, and they had to make an episode about it, and so they dashed this off. But I don't know that it's like the strongest work that they've done.
No, and I think a lot of the times when you're dealing with these like recent rip from the headlines, it's not always executed that well.
Because it's.
How do you do that and make it interesting? I think it's I'm not necessarily blaming them, and they're dealing with a formula that they were. That at this point has been established for 15 years, and they've only been doing the show for 3. Yeah. Or this is two seasons and 2 episodes.
The formula is older than that, because like this.
The formula goes back to the Law and Order ripped from the headlines in 1990. Like this has been a thing for fucking at this point 23, 24 years.
I mean, there's like a Richard Brooks episode that's basically this exact same episode, just with it's ripped from a different headline, but it's which
is sad because there's every 3 months this headline is.
I think that one might have actually been a kind of tied into the Central Park 5, but there you have, instead of having Finn, black cop, kind of dealing with this thing that he kind of experiences more deeply than his colleagues do. Richard Brooks, black attorney, is having the same kind of issue there. And as I recall, that's a great episode. I don't remember the name of it, but it's not bad, but it's not great. And I think it's, despite being a real hot button issue and having big stars, I think it's kind of forgettable. Like, I don't know that this one's going to stick with me.
I'm inclined to say like a 4.
I think a 4 is fine.
Yeah.
Now with Guess, it's got, obviously Cybill Shepherd was a huge star at various points of her career. Taxi Driver is iconic, and
Last Picture Show is too.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Moonlighting was iconic.
Fuck, Moonlighting is. I don't even know if it's streaming anywhere. I don't think it is. I actually have the first season on DVD.
Really? Wow.
I fucking love Moonlighting.
I mean, Moonlighting
is so good.
Really took kind of like primetime television to a different level of
for sure.
Of like just kind of popularity, but also kind of
super meta, which was not a thing that was being done then.
Production qualities were very high in that one. Yep. It really kind of kicked it up a notch. It was I don't remember individual episodes at all, but I remember like it being kind of an event when I got to watch one.
For sure. Yeah, Bill Irwin's doing the work here. He's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
Kevin Carroll and Sonia Stone are really good. Tambor is Tambor.
Yeah.
I think this one ends up doing pretty well in the guest star.
It's not,
realm.
but
I'm thinking like a 7.
I think a 7 is about as high, because it's not like. It's not that any of them are that great, right? Like Cybill Shepherd is not.
She's having to be pretty fucking odious.
She is, and she's good. She's good at it by doing it with that kind of like smirk on her face, and it's pretty good. And the way she recoils when Finn lightly touches her, kind of when he touches her, he's not doing it in a weird way. He's doing it to kind of like figure out
recreate the crime
exactly, and she recoils in horror.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And for someone who, like, that wouldn't be easy for her given her past as a staunch advocate for civil rights.
Yeah.
So she's having to do work that she surely could not be comfortable
Yeah,
with.
I mean, and Tambor is very good as the attorney. I think he's like
Yeah,
a good
I mean-
foil to Barba, and so he's good there.
It's sort of hard to unpack Tambor's.
we
fall
don't
from
have
grace,
we're
but we
to-
don't have to do that.
We don't have to talk too much about Tambor because
No.
he's not the main character, thankfully. Exactly. But I liked a lot of the small parts. Like I liked the guy that was going back and forth with Rollins about his joint rolling skills when they were doing the stop and frisks. And
Yeah.
I liked a few. I like Willie. I liked a few of those smaller parts too.
Yeah.
Josh, was this problematic? It was.
It was very racist.
It was extremely racist.
We had to watch a lot of the racism.
Yeah, we sure did. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, I think we're probably looking at another like 7 here.
I think that's fair because it definitely makes you cringe, but it's not making
yeah.
you cringe.
No, I don't think in 2021 you're cringing in a way that's fun.
Well, I think
Because it's even rawer now than it was then.
absolutely. I think because it's not that the episode is doing it insensitively, but almost because it's not like if it were a season 2 episode that was being kind of racist in a weird way that didn't realize that it was being racist, it would be more fun to watch than
Yeah,
watching
this is very cognizant of the
exactly. It's very
racism that it's
self-aware
portraying.
of what it's
Yeah,
portraying, and it's doing it.
Yeah, it's obviously they're doing it in the professional way that it's meant to be done.
Yeah,
but
it's
for our
landing,
purposes,
but
that's
it's not as fun as
Yeah.
as some of the other things that we've seen. It's not as fun as Connor Paolo. Freddy's Treehouse, I think is what it was called.
Might be Freddy's Playhouse, maybe.
Maybe that's it. But
Freddy's Funhouse.
Freddy's Funhouse. Okay,
I think
it's not as
I
fun as Finn and Rollins descending into a bizarre world of
Strange Beauty.
of kinky body modifications.
Yeah.
Now,
And then having Steve from Sex and the City give a really crazy fucking like pro
non-consensual amputation rant.
voluntary amputation screed. Oh man, fantastic.
yeah.
Sorry. Are you editing that one?
I am.
Was
I'm
that
editing
next?
it right now. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
not I'm not into the nuts and bolts of adding in sound clips,
Sure,
but
sure. Yeah.
I mean,
What a fucking nut.
it'll be a lot of
episode.
fun to add in those Steve clips. So we said 7 on problematic, and I think that's
Yeah.
fair because it is highly problematic, but it's not that
Just
fun.
not necessarily. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to make you go, ay, ay, ay.
Yeah.
But the depth and breadth of lives ruined. Now, as we know, Makad was literally a choir boy, and his parents are justifiably completely devastated. The city is on edge, also justifiably, because
There are also 4 rape victims here. We've got the whole racial injustice of the trial not playing out the way that would have served justice.
and also like it seems to me like Jolene's just going to go back, she's not going to get canceled the way Paula Deen was, and people are going to continue going to her fucking bullshit racist
Yeah, so it's just going to embolden
overpriced
white
chicken
nationalists.
parlor. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's going to feed into Charlottesville or,
It's
whatever.
just it's a chicken-on restaurant is what it is. It's
Yep.
fried chicken-on. Sonia Sohn and what's his name, Carol.
Kevin Carroll,
Kevin
yeah.
Carroll. God, they look devastated in that courtroom.
Yep.
And it's hard to not rank this very highly because of that. I think.
And I mean, Finn's obviously dealing with.
Yeah, Finn is devastated because of it. Liv starts the episode with her life basically being flushed down the toilet.
And it's not really in a better place at the end of the episode.
No, she's been humiliated in court, and she's brutalized 2 people who, one of them might have deserved it, but certainly not
Not the guy on the street.
Not from
And she
her.
knows that, but yeah.
Not from her, not while using handcuffs.
So I think we're maybe looking at another 7 here.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't want to go too much higher than that just because...
it's only one body, and there's no,
yeah,
like...
it's one body. I mean, again, they're what, I believe we're at 4 rape victims or 3?
There's 4, well, 3
There's 3
and
or
a
4
half.
rape victims
3
and him.
is 3 plus in progress.
The one that they caught in the...
Yeah, so we don't really know, the details of that, so we don't know how
So it's
far
not like
gone.
there aren't victims.
They're definitely
I don't
victims.
know how heavily to weigh the... Maybe it's an 8 because of the race stuff.
I think it's got to be it. I mean, like, the city is, like, about to explode, and here we are in 2021, and it's not like that shit got any better in New York. It got a lot worse last year, so...
Yep.
So that gives us an overall 6.5.
It's probably a little higher than it should be, but it ticks the
I mean, it
boxes,
ticks
so
a lot of... It ticks boxes. Again, you might be able to hear it in the tone of voice talking about this one. It's like, we don't want to give this one a particularly high score because it's
But it
not
does the
that
things.
fun, but it does
No.
do the things, and it's definitely problematic. So it is... so 6.5 ties it with the Barry Bostwick episode that we watched recently. No, that's... Which one was that? No, that was way back in the day. So that was Death or Christian Entertainment. That was Season 8, Episode 21, Pretend. That was Episode 14 of Munch My Benson. And also with Episode 64, that was Parole Violations, 1617. That was... Looks like he came straight from his job as a future cop at the Bondage Club. And just behind Military Justice. So, yeah, it's there. It's definitely doing its thing, and it has, it undeniably has big stars. So it's kind of hard. Like, big stars have to kind of be doing shitty things, and the episode has to be bad for them not to tick that guest box. And I mean, Cybill Shepherd's pretty damn good in it.
Yeah.
So, Josh, I think we can roll the next one, and hopefully we get back to that run of really good episodes that we've been having, because
Yeah, we've had a real serious stroke of luck here.
Yeah, well, we kind of had a downturn over the last few, but before that, we were really doing well.
Undercover Mother.
Oh, it re-rolled? Oh, no.
No.
You're just thinking about Undercover Mother?
Yeah. No, I was looking back at the ones we just done. Yeah, I mean, like Motherly Love and Strange Beauty.
I just, like, Strange Beauty was amazing.
Oh, man. What a pleasant surprise that was.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, anyway. So we're going over to episode.lol, which was built for this podcast by friend of the pod, Flat.
Mm-hmm.
Firing up, spinning the tape. Bill and Ted do not like this one bit.
Napoleon is eating a giant bowl of ice cream.
And we've got Season 4, Episode 15, Pandora.
Interesting. We have not done an early episode in as long as I can remember.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
And so is this episode.
Nice.
A body found in a car opens up an investigation into a worldwide child pornography ring, which takes Stabler halfway around the world. So this is the one where he goes to the Czech Republic.
Hell yeah.
This one features Pam Grier as Assistant U.S. Attorney Claudia Williams, reprising her role from Disappearing Acts, which we covered back in episode 66, 2 pages about golden showers. So, she's in this. We've also got Alexis Zena, who she was in Broken Flowers, if you remember.
Okay.
And we've got Dagmara Dimitrick, who is the third Dimitrick sister that we've had in an episode here.
Very strange.
Yep.
Scanning the rest of them, I don't really recognize
I don't
anybody else.
recognize anyone
but you never
else.
know. William McNamara, probably.
Trying to see if anyone else there is recognizable. They're not really.
No.
I feel like I really feel like I should know who William McNamara is, and I do not.
I mean, he was not the Secretary of Defense under Lyndon Johnson.
Not that war criminal.
But yeah, guys, I think
Yeah.
with that, wow, look at these cards, man. I'm gonna have to a little bit of overseas,
Holy hell.
a little overseas
10
googling.
cards, and they go to Teplice. All right, they also go to Copy Pro Print Shop.
Hopefully that's the same print shop we went to in that one episode. That had a
No,
really sassy.
that one was Quick.
Yeah, that's right.
It was spelled. It had Quick in the name and Quick spelled in a weird way.
That was the Stephen Ray episode, if I am not mistaken.
Yep,
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think, guys, it's time to do that thing we always tell you to do: rate and review the episode.
Seriously.
Yeah, it really helps us
Do
a
it.
lot. You can also follow us on social. We have social at places that we would have social, considering that we are middle-aged
Exennials.
men.
We're
Yeah, we're not on TikTok.
We're still begrudgingly on the other things.
Yeah.
I mean, I really wish that that we could put this out and people would listen, and I didn't have to do anything on social media.
Yeah. It's not how the world
but
works, apparently.
That is not how the world works.
Yeah.
So we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook as Munch My Benson.
Yeah.
We are on Reddit. We have a subreddit, Munch My Benson. Again, r/Munch My Benson. We have a website, munchmybenson.com. We have an email address that you could send emails to, munchmybenson@gmail.com.
There's a theme here. If you're on a website and you can put in Munch My Benson, chances are you're going to find us.
Indeed.
But guys, I think with that, it's time to keep on munching. We'll see you next week.
Munch everyone's Benson.
No, but I think we're looking at a serial. Same MO, same verbiage. I think we need a sketch artist down here now.
Now? No. We've already spent enough overtime on those missing girls. We'll do it first thing in the morning. Get some rest.